So you could get out there.
Okay,
if-
good.
if Everything.
All right, we're good to go then.
All these sets in.
Yeah,
I'm working weekends,
yep, yep.
trying to get it all done.
I was just curious, you know.
It opens the weekends. That's,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're now we're so busy at church.
Call the meeting to order.
It is.
Jennifer Blakely,
Here.
Dave Raymer,
Yep.
and
I mean,
Trish.
yes, ma'am.
Here.
Yep.
Jody Nicholson,
Yes,
and then Alderman Adams is not going to be able to make it today.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All right. And approve the minutes of I guess that is the special meeting? Okay. Old business, so Red Cedar update and budget.
Steve, you want me to do the update?
Yes, please.
So I laid in front of all you, sorry Trudy, that don't have one to put on the screen, but just this morning, we had Katie Aholt with Navigate came in and gave a presentation, so I copied what she presented, and we'll just give you a summary, because hers was pretty detailed. So I'll just tell you what this contains is the work completed to date, the project financial updates, and some upcoming goals that they're working on now. There has, the work completed to date, construction of the new addition is done. As far as the framing and everything is sealed now from the weather. Foundations, framing, roof, cedar siding's all done. Interior partitions and insulation. The insulation, I was just in the building this afternoon, and the insulation on the exterior walls has been sprayed on the new addition. So the ceiling insulation is waiting for the electrical and wiring to be done, the placement of the light fixtures, that type of thing before the insulation and the roof will be done. The rough ends for the mechanical, the HVAC system is all being done and completed now. Interior renovations, the removals of anything that's necessary to come out is done. The interior partitions are all up. And then the exterior, the roof replacement is done. They did have to replace a lot of the plywood in addition to the shingles, but that's done, and carpentry repairs have been completed. There's several pictures that you can see there as you flip through to see how good that addition now looks with all that cedar siding that's on there. You can see the frame, the rough end for the plumbing and electrical. You see some of the sprinkler lines in the ceiling. And then, as far as financial updates, I'll just summarize by saying that our new contract value is $2,230,325, which represents 3% increase over what it was originally planned for. So we feel like we're really on track with only a 3% difference.
That's a very impressive number for the change orders on a project like this.
Pretty amazing.
Wow.
You look at a renovation, they always say is more expensive than a new build. So to be doing a renovation and be that close, I think we're doing a really good job. And I attribute that to the construction team and working with Mr. Roth on staying, and the administrative committee, on staying focused on the necessities, not getting overly excited about things that we could have done. We wanted to stay true to the original plan as much as we could. There's been some expensive change orders that we were required that were surprises on us. Some of the foundation and footings that we didn't think was going to be a problem ended up being a problem, so we had to take out what was there and replace. Some of the cinder block walls originally that were deteriorating, we needed to replace a section of that. But it hasn't been all that overwhelming. I will say also that there's been some cost-cutting measures that we've implemented, such as the ceiling finish when you walk into the main hall. There was an original plan for a ceiling tile that was pretty ornate, and it didn't have any acoustic properties. So that building doesn't have very many to begin with, and so we need all we can get. So we were able to change to a different ceiling tile that'll give a similar effect when you walk in, a 2x2 configuration, but it has acoustic properties, and so it was $30,000 less. So that was good. So a couple of things that the recently approved change orders, we've added some lighting features, working with Derek Pryor, the designer, who came in and made some suggestions that made a lot of sense as far as enhancing the display capabilities or the ambiance of the displays. So he made some recommendations about increasing the lighting or the illumination potential. Everything's on dimmers so that you can be able to adjust it. But he added some power to the main lobby. He made those recommendations, and then he also recommended that we would increase the power over the displays themselves that are along the walls so that he could dial it up or down as needed. So those were all approved. In addition to that, another change order that was approved recently was for the exterior lighting along the eastern side of the building. For security purposes, one, for aesthetics, two, as people are driving by on Route 66 at night, they'll see this building lit up, and it'll look really good, the front porch and then that eastern elevation. In addition to that, we've made some plans for future expansion outside. There's a pavilion area that kind of is a Plan B, or not Plan B, but what do I want to say? Phase 2, that's what I want to say. Phase B, if you want. But that pavilion is not going to be built right away, but we're making plans for it so that its use can be for events that are held outside the facility. It's a covered pavilion over a concrete slab kind of setting. So we'll have the power outside to be able to handle those kind of future events. Something else was decided this morning, pretty much by the administrative committee, is that we'll have the stub in for an electrical vehicle charging station, and we'll have the power capability to be able to handle that kind of electric flow when it's called upon to do so. I'm not sure. We still have some research to do to determine if we are going to implement the EV charging station in the early days. It may have to wait a little while because it's a very expensive endeavor to take on, and we want to do it right when we do. So.
Well, and that was one thing, just to jump in really quick, I was listening on the radio the other day, and they were talking with the lithium shortage, that all of these manufacturers are now coming out with different batteries, and they're coming out with entirely new systems. So I was thinking, who knows what could happen in the next 2 years. The entire car charging system might be completely different. So putting one in now, not knowing if in 2 years that would even...
What's going to be the demand?
Yeah.
So there is right now an incentive from Ameren that they'll go 50-50 on a cost share up to $50,000 on their part. But, what's the sense in doing that if it's going to be old technology very soon?
Right.
So that's one of the main concerns. So we want to make sure we get it right. Let's see. You can see some new contract values and some change orders that occurred, as well as pending change orders. There aren't very many. So there's some contract allowances that you can see that have not been used yet, but we expect them to be used. And then the exterior construction is what's upcoming. Window and glazing installation. Some of the windows, like in the bar, there were some windows that were covered up with mirror glass long ago. We're going to reopen those windows up, but those window fixtures, or the actual window units, are being manufactured special so they match. And so it's not going to be till July until they're here. So we've asked the window manufacturer, I contacted them and asked them to please expedite it if at all possible. So they're working on that. I'm not going to hold my breath. The doors, frames, hardware, the painting, front porch replacement, interior construction of drywall, and the ceilings, the painting and floor refinishing, architectural woodwork, bathroom finishes, and doing the lighting and the electric fixtures. Site work construction is on the exterior. Once that all is done inside, they'll move outside and get the utilities, the parking lot, and the future pavilion site prep, although the pavilion itself won't be built in this round. So anybody have any questions on the Red Cedar progress? No. That was a pretty quick summary of what Katie talked I don't know, 20 minutes on. So, there you have it. Now for budget, I'll turn it over to Mr. Roth.
Okay, just a general budget report. Our revenues are back on the rebound after 2 down years. We've received $58,840 in tourism taxes in this fiscal year, beginning July 1st. And we do think we'll get to at least 90,000 this year, possibly more. So we are trending back upward after, again, a couple down years. Our fund balance is January 31st, we had about 55,000 in cash and 102,000 in reserve, about 158,000 total. We do have debt or payables of around 106,000, and these are funds that were borrowed from the city's contingency fund, and they're payable, I think, on an annual basis. We first started with, I think it was part of the Red Cedar project maybe initially, and then we borrowed funds for the, we borrowed funds first for the Bigfoot project and then for the digital sign more recently. We do have ongoing commitments, as you all know. The partnership agreement is $50,000 annually. It's paid quarterly, $12,500, and then we have 2 budgeted items this year. The rodeo, of course, it's not in this fiscal year, but then the fireworks those would actually be still in this fiscal year. So, overall financial position is what I would consider maybe okay. I guess if the city demanded those funds be returned rather quickly, we would, frankly, have not much reserve left. I don't think the city is going to make that type of demand anytime soon. So as long as the revenues rebound, I think we'll be in fair shape. Another note on budget, it's budget season very early on. By the next meeting, I will have at least a basic draft budget, and then we'll have to take action on it in May. So it'll be coming up pretty soon. Okay, Red Cedar. We have posted the Director of Tourism position, and we're taking applications. That process has been going on for a couple weeks. We have a fair amount of candidates. Frankly, would like a few more, but we have a decent pool at this point. We're getting closer to actually operating the center. It's probably not going to be ready for occupancy until August, September, possibly even later, but as we move forward, we're going to have to understand how we're going to fund it. I provided the budget here to the Board of Aldermen last week, and I want to go over it at least in a bit of detail with you all. The number one point I'd make to you is that we want to run the Red Cedar out of tourism. And by doing that, it means that all the expenditures, all the activity would come first to Tourism Commission and then ultimately to the Board of Aldermen. And so, I know tourism has been, pretty, obviously meets regularly and so forth, but this would, up the game just a bit. The director would report directly to the Tourism Commission, take direction from staff, of course, from the city in general, but also from the Tourism Commission. I said earlier today when we had administrative committee meeting, when it comes to marketing, promotions, activities, what you want the director to do, I'm not the guy that's best situated to give that type of feedback. You all are directly in the business, and so I really want the director to have a close relationship with you as a body, and again, kind of work at your direction, kind of in the big picture stuff. We'll handle the day-to-day, of course, but where's the best marketing spend? What are the best promotional activities we can have? Again, I think that needs to be really kind of overseen by you all. Go ahead, yes. I don't know what that's about. I really don't. We heard her earlier.
Trudy, we don't have audio for you. Would you like to text a question? You can send me a text if you'd like.
Put her on FaceTime.
Sign language.
I don't know, do you? Guess I left my phone in the car.
Just a couple gestures.
Text her and ask her, tell her to text us.
Yeah, here.
That's what I left my phone in the car. She is,
Okay.
okay.
I'm assuming admission into the museum will be free and there'll be a donation box. Do we have any, is there a plan of ways to be able to generate revenue inside of having a gift shop area or, you know, trinkets and shot glasses and ashtrays and T-shirts?
There is
and-
a gift shop area, right,
Okay.
has been designated. What it's going to feature as far as for sale has not been determined, but we do need to start making plans and provisions for that now, so that we can order things that might take an exorbitant amount of time to get in. But yeah, those Route 66 memorabilia, Red
Oh,
Cedar
yeah.
memorabilia can be printed. So Pacific, unique things, items that are unique to Pacific could be showcased, absolutely.
Okay. Because I know that was something, I guess, geez, probably a year and a half ago that we discussed was,
lot.
you
Yeah,
know,
it was a long
people-
time ago.
People go places, they want to take something home and,
So,
Yeah, I'll get to that in a little bit. Before we go any further, is there any comment on tourism being the, kind of the lead group here as this project moves forward?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah. We are asking maybe a little bit more of you than we had previously, but I really believe it would strengthen the commission, honestly. So,
and I think it would give a focus, you know, right now, you know, we've got one person that's kind of in charge of downtown, another person that's doing the chamber, another person that's doing the partnership. And having maybe one person that says like, okay, this is what we need to accomplish, and that person can decide if it's best suited to discuss that with partnership, discuss that with, you know, the downtown person, or discuss that with the chamber, and find a way to combine everybody, I guess, on one team as opposed to a bunch of different teams.
Yep.
okay. Going into the budget, and this is very kind of big picture-y and draft and preliminary, the main purpose of it was just determine how are we going to fund this and manage it kind of from a structural standpoint. And so on the back page of the memorandum that I had sent out earlier, there's this draft budget. We anticipate using some tourism tax, of course, for the operations. In year one, there's $20,000. In year two, 30. In year three, 40. That's not a big number, but it's within your, basically it was kind of within your existing budgets now. I think we can manage that. There would be a one-time initial transfer of $300,000 from the city's American Rescue Plan Act distribution. Tourism is, of course, an eligible expense, and this has been vetted through the city attorney and so forth. So we're confident we can use that money for this purpose, and it would kind of be what you might call, you know, starting money, seed money, if you will, get the program off the ground. We would then anticipate monthly general fund transfers of, say, $5,000, $60,000 annually. And then we would have to have some revenues. We've always spoke of it in those terms. There'd be a gift shop. There would be an ability to have at least some packaged food and drink. These numbers are just thrown out wild guesses. They're just there for kind of discussion purposes. But we got to generate some revenues. Donations, we also would anticipate accepting donations primarily for the museum. There's kind of two purposes here. One is the visitor center and the tourism office, and then secondly, of course, is the museum. And so we do anticipate the ability to take on some donations for the museum. EV charging station revenues, those are just put in there. If we ever do go down this path, we would want to obviously charge. As you don't get free fuel or to your vehicle or free electric, so we want to charge. There is a little bit of concern over whether or not it makes sense right now. But if we ever did move forward on it, it would have to pay for itself and then some. We have other grants and loans that are coming in. There's a general fund transfer that would be required in order to pay some of our capital expenditures. We do have a St. Louis County Municipal Park Grant Commission grant, and then the lease purchase project fund. Those are funds that are in the initial finance issue that are remaining. It's a round figure, but those would be available to the museum. The city just entered into a contract with the museum designer. So, how are you going to pay for all that? The lease purchase project fund would support a good amount of that. Excuse me. Okay, moving on into expenditures, personnel. When a $60,000 salaried person is going to cost around $90 total. And so, we have to have budget for both the director and then some part-timers. There's no way we're going to operate the center on a regular basis without some part-time help. So 120, I think, is a fair budget to start. I really do. I think we can probably keep the center open 5 days a week minimum, maybe more within that budget. Operating and maintenance, this is, utilities, basic supplies, so forth. I think that's pretty reasonable. That operating maintenance number doesn't include any concessions or gift shop supplies, so on and so forth. If anything, that number might be a little bit high. This charging stations would cost, of course. We'd be buying electric and then essentially reselling it. Concessions. Here again, there's room in the project for a cooler. And by that I mean if you go in a convenience store, you get into a cooler. So we've always envisioned at least there being one two-sided cooler that you can go in and buy water, soda, packaged foods. And so that is kind of part of our vision of concessions, and then also your gift shop items. We have to make some profit, obviously. So whatever we spend on concessions, we would, of course, have some type of markup on it. And then finally, marketing and promotions. As you all know, this marketing and promotions advertising is costly. Right now, $40,000 per year, a little bit more than $3,000 per month. I know that's really not a lot. I think it's a starting point. Once we get into it, I think the marketing and promotions piece, as well as the concessions, both, I would think you guys would have a lot to say about. You can't just build it, staff it, and then, don't market and promote it. You've got to do that.
The most important piece.
I know, and it's a challenge because I'm not in the marketing promotions business. I'm just not. Our everyday routines typically don't touch on this. So, when we have this, we're asking a lot of whoever we hire, but Putting together a marketing plan, working with you all is going to be one of their primary tasks. Anything on operating expenditures before we move on? Is there anything I'm missing? And if, something comes to you later and you want to talk to me about it, of course, just give me a call or send an email.
Steve, the only question I had is, on the operating and maintenance, is included in there an office setup, desk and computer?
Yes.
Is that in there, or is that in the build-out?
Yes. Now, we're not sure, to be honest, exactly where this person would be housed from an office standpoint.
Okay.
It could be that they would be in the Wintech building. And so that hasn't been definitively determined, but yes. Further down in the capital, there's IT expenditures, you got to
Okay.
put computers in and so forth.
Now, will like maintenance and repairs, that type of stuff, that's taken care of by the city, or is that a separate?
We'll maintain it similar as we do other facilities. I think, we have a weekly janitorial crew come here. Whether or not we need that for this facility, I'm not sure. Good question.
I just didn't know, if something happens with the toilet or, grass or stuff needs to be swept, or the parking lot, if that's something that's city property that they're taking care of, or?
Yes.
If you've got traffic going through there, on a week like we've had, somebody's going to have to mop those floors every day.
Yeah, good point. Yes, I hear you. The city would do the basic maintenance. For example, when we have snow, city crews come and throw down salt, several sidewalks. So they do the same there.
So the part-time employee can hit bathrooms and wipe
Yes.
down windows.
Yeah, it would be part of the duties of the staff, I think, the light maintenance. Yes.
How about insurance?
It's insured by the city's insurance carrier, which is it's a good situation. Our assessment is mainly tied to payroll. And so, we add payroll, of course, we add some insurance costs. We have a portion of our assessment is directed to facilities, but it's really pretty a minor piece. It's mostly salary-based. But yes, good question. Property casualty, work comp, all that. Okay, moving into capital, we'll have some initial IT expenditures, computers. There's going to have to be some type of point of sale system. We're going to have to accept credit cards, all that. There'll be some one-time upfront expenditures. Furnishings and equipment, same situation. We've had a lot of luck, frankly, lately with a vendor who I think we can keep that furniture number actually down below what I'm showing there. The charging station, if we move forward, that's actually half of the anticipated spend. The other half would be covered via an Ameren grant. The museum design fees, the city just approved that. Derek Pryor Design is a consultant. Those design fees will be capitalized as an expenditure. And then the exhibits installation, the project budget is $400,000. We had to know that going in when you hire your designer. And we'll see just where we land. Again, I've done a lot of things in my career in city government, but never built a museum. So I think 400 is a good number, I do, and that's based on input from the designer. I hope we can hold it to that and honestly a bit less. Okay, get down to the bottom line. In year one, we're showing a balance, and then, of course, we carry that balance forward into year two. In year three, if you look, there's a negative. And this is really just kind of an exercise at this point to show that in year 3, we'll have to increase revenues or reduce expenditures, one or the other, in order to make a balance. We have the ability to carry this. We do. Want to be very clear. The city's in good financial shape. You know, we're always looking for danger signs. They're out there, 2 days, we know. But I do think going forward, we'd have the ability to carry this. So if we have to up our general fund transfers, I think that's available to us. But I'm just going to emphasize this point. We've got to be able to build that program, both, just kind of your regular revenues coming out of there, as well as activities, fundraising. Especially in the context of the museum, there's going to be some private monies that may become available. Very early on in the Red Cedar project, there was a private foundation that funds Route 66 projects. And our project wasn't a good fit, but, this isn't government money, it's private money. And another thing we're going to ask the director to do is, look at all sources of revenues. And so, going forward, we're just going to have to generate some of that in order to, maintain the bottom line. As far as next steps, Kim and I have discussed, obviously Mayor Adams is not here. I don't think any of us sense a need to adopt the budget just yet. I think right now it's just, we just want to let people know how we're approaching it. Once we hire that director, there's going to have to be a budget. So what I told the Board of Aldermen is before that person is hired, we're going to have to adopt some budget for at least the personnel costs. July 1 is our budget year. Honestly, the ideal situation is that this all gets incorporated into the next budget. So I kind of think that would be my approach. As we go forward, I can see, the director potentially wanting some more budget before July 1st, and that's fine. We can kind of, we can sort of manage it a little bit incrementally, and then, once we set that bigger budget, we're just going to have to kind of manage by it, obviously. Any questions?
I think it's a good start. Especially because some of it is, who knows yet?
Right.
Really,
Yes.
really.
Yeah, I think the number one thing is yes, we can absolutely do this. I mean, there's really no question about it. And now it's kind of basically fine tuning and figure out where you want to focus. The marketing promotions is really the biggest question mark, in my opinion. We do. We don't place a lot of advertising, but the advertising we place is costly. You guys know this. It jumps up on you quick. And so the best use of that is really, I got my own ideas. One thing I would note, just yesterday, the state of Missouri put some preliminary info out on tourism monies that is coming down through the state to the local entities. And of course, they use a division of tourism as it's actually housed at DED, Department of Economic Development, but they want to integrate tourism as well at the state level. And so that is a source. There is money at the state level. I think our project, honestly, is going to be very attractive to state and regional partners both. I really think, pretty clearly it will. And so, hopefully we can get some assistance there. I haven't worked with tourism division at the state level very closely. I have in my past. And it wasn't a huge amount of money, but there was some. There was definitely some available. So that could help. I think maybe even more than just paying for it. I think it would also help in helping us understand what that marketing landscape is like. So,
If I could add, just this afternoon, I met with St. Louis attorney Greg Wolk, W-O-L-K, who is, he's a Civil War expert on the Missouri Civil War. And the plaques that you see around town, the storyboards, he's the one that originally came to the city and suggested that we should be able to take advantage of some of the Civil War events that occurred here. So that was years ago. I've known him for probably 13 years. But Greg met me at Red Cedar because he's right now, he's involved with an organization that is with the Ulysses S. Grant Trail. They're building a 10 by 10 is the 10 foot by 10 foot diorama of Civil War activities that's going to go to the museum that's there at Jefferson Barracks for the Civil War first, and then it goes to the State Archives building in Jefferson City. And then around December, he'd like it to come to Red Cedar and be like a traveling exhibit that's there for a month that we could promote. And I think we're going to have those kind of opportunities come more and more as people hear about what we've done. But this is free of charge. They come in and they loan it to the museum. But one of the things, the reason why I wanted to share this with you is that Greg suggested that there are organizations that he knows about that are granting organizations that support buildings and museums like just what we've constructed. And so I think there's more and more that our new tourism director is going to be able to pursue successfully.
Okay.
That's all I have.
So we're moving on to the fireworks display?
Okay, I've got that. We have gotten 2 bids from the people who did the display last year, J&M Displays. Last year's cost was $12,500 for a display that was, it received tremendous accolades from the people who saw it. It was really well done. However, this year, because of the cost increases that you're all very familiar with, the fireworks industry was not untouched, largely in shipping costs. So that same display that was seen last year, this year would be $16,800 instead of $12,500. So we could do what we did last year that had a really strong wow effect, or they're offering a reduced version for $14,000. It's not the same. It's about 25% less of what we saw last year in terms of volume of fireworks, but still we have a fireworks show. So we're coming to you and asking, Kim, you had given me a number of the amount of donations that came outside of the tourism funds from last year. Do you recall?
I think it was like 1,500.
So we had 1,500 in corporate gifts, or individual contributions that came from private citizens. And we're asking if you consider that same 1,500 might be contributed again. Kim will send out a letter to all the businesses in town, as well as the people who had given last year individually, to request those same kind of contributions to come in. We don't know what we'd get there, but then would the Tourism Commission make up the difference? And then what size display would you like us to go with? That's what's really before you now.
So are there, I mean, Kim sends out letters. I mean, it's kind of one of those things, you look at what a GoFundMe page does, you know, if perhaps, you know, if Steve not even got a letter, but was looking on Facebook one day and saw, oh, wow, they need, you know, some assistance with the fireworks display. Thank you, tourism, for spending $12,000. You know, I could give 50 or I could give 20. Is there anything that the city can do in a shareable, or would that be something that maybe like the, you know, the downtown director could put out as kind of a, you know, is that an option, or is that just, I'm just thinking if it was, you know, people are much more willing, if a lot of people part with $20, then that kind of helps. or what are the businesses, or, I mean, I'm just curious as to,
Yeah, and this isn't directly to your question, but tourism's budget $12,500. Ultimately, this expense goes to the Board of Aldermen. My recommendation is to be that the tourism piece is capped at $12,500, and that the city cover the rest of the expense if the city wants to go the additional cost. I would not want to ask tourism to fund the rest of it. As far as the fundraising piece, I'm not the best guy to talk to. I don't know. Do you have any input on that, Kim?
We haven't ever approached it through GoFundMe, but I mean, we could explore that.
I mean, I just was curious, you know, as to who gets letters, or if it's, you know, the big companies, or, I mean,
Normally, I mean, in the past, we've just looked back at last year, sent them out to those automatically, and then if anybody new has come in, we always send them a letter.
And to give credit where credit's due, we had a champion in one of the past aldermen, Carol Johnson.
oh,
She always was a cheerleader for the fireworks, raising funds for it. And she would solicit her friends and family and
Feet on doors.
anybody that came within 3 feet of her.
no, I completely agree with Steve. I think, you know, we keep, if that's, you know, what we've spent, we keep our budget. And if the city or the cheerleaders or whomever out there can rally up that other, you know, go big or go home, then we could go with the big one. And if not, then,
Well, and probably the struggle is, when do you have to contract for this? Pretty quickly?
Yeah, as soon as possible.
I mean, so if we meet in the middle with the $14,000 one this year, but maybe we raise more, then that's more that we can have next year when we know the costs are going to go up again, because nothing ever really seems to be going down.
Well, with fuel prices, the way they're going, it's gonna go up.
So at least if we are aggressive and we raise more than next year, and then if anybody doesn't like their smaller fireworks display, they can get where to donate towards next year, making it bigger. Oh,
Well, I'm wondering also if we couldn't approach J&M Displays and say we're going to lock in the 14,000, but depending on contributions, I don't know how much flexibility he'll have at a shorter notice. Maybe there's a window there that we would challenge folks. We have to know by X date if you want the same display as what we had last year, you know.
And I think we can bring it to the chamber, too.
Yeah.
Because that'll get to a lot more businesses than I assume than just, I don't know where the letters are all going to, but
well, but I look at the businesses, you know, well, you know, like the restaurants, the businesses that are open downtown that are there making money
Right.
while people are hanging out in between the car show and waiting for the fireworks. You know, there's,
Let me correct you on that. The car show is going to be in the fall in September.
somebody just told me that it wasn't.
No,
Oh, it's supposed to be,
Somebody
June
just,
28th.
I swear, somebody just told me a couple weeks ago that it was moved back to the summer.
That I haven't heard. I just knew there was
same,
I heard there was a street party on
Okay.
June 25th, is it? Yeah. And then fireworks in the evening?
I don't know who told me that, but because that's what we
but
were
isn't that
planning
the-
on.
Isn't that the date for the fireworks?
Yeah, June
Regardless of the
25th.
street party?
Right.
Yeah, but I swear, somebody told me that
Well,
it
I'm
got
gonna-
moved back.
I'm going to send a text to Sam right now so you get clarification, so there's no confusion.
And the main reason for that was because I block my house, so nobody books it on Airbnb, because if they were to unknowingly book my house and not really be able to get their vehicle or their stuff in or out,
so you really need to know.
I mean, I usually tell anybody that's staying there that has dogs or anything, like, hey, there's going to be fireworks going on over your head. But, yeah, because somebody, I don't even remember who it was, but they said it was moved back to the,
Okay, interesting.
okay, well,
But I agree, if they'll allow us to do the smaller one, and with the option that we leave that open.
Okay, I'll find that out.
We actually did something like that last year. I forget the exact details, but we were able to raise additional funds. So I think for purposes of today, we would probably like to get the contract to the Board of Aldermen next week. So it wouldn't hurt actually to have a motion from you all on the 12,500 as budgeted.
June 25th.
Is the car show? That's what I was told.
He just said, he just got verification that car show is June 25th.
Who said that?
Lynn just did.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said it. I admit it.
Interesting. Here's saying, June 25th, yep, he just confirmed it with me, too. All right, I had bad information.
That's
they must
okay.
have-
I was like, man, I'm hearing stuff. Okay.
Yeah, they must have changed their minds.
So does everyone agree? Do we need a vote or to go with
I make a motion that we okay the expenditure of $12,500 for fireworks with any donations that might come in to be applied to increasing the show.
Second? That's,
And then you can take it and just, I guess, get the information that, hey, if it turns out we can raise more money and we step up, what's our timeline for that? You know, just get that information at
Okay,
least.
the 14,000,
Yep.
unless there's more money that comes in, I'll try to get a date that is a drop-dead date for giving them that information.
Actually, though, we were making a motion for
Oh, you know, making a motion.
12.5.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But-
then we need to get the,
Yeah, making the
balance
motion for
from-
the 12,
And
but,
balance.
make the
but
motion.
we.
Yeah, again, this goes to the Board of Aldermen. So the communication to them is tourism is committed to 12.5 as budgeted. The remainder will come from either city or funds or donated purposes.
But do we have to make the decision if we go with the reduced or the same
City
size?
has to do the
City
contract.
make that
Okay.
decision,
All
yes.
right, gotcha.
okay.
Okay,
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
All right, just for clarity on anybody watching here today, is that June 25th is the car show with fireworks to follow roughly 9:30 at night when it gets pitch black.
Do we have any
Nautical
miscellaneous?
Nautical sunset.
I don't have anything, I don't think.
Okay. Call the meeting to adjourn?
Motion
Oh,
to
sorry.
adjourn?
Make a mo-
I'll second that.
I was reading my note instead of,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, we did.
Okay,
do
thanks,
the
everybody.
12, But. I guess I feel like, but I guess we had a big